Thank you, Jonathan. Hello, everybody. I am Deb Heisel. I am the chair of our Events and Professional Development Committee for the Ohio Transfer Council. And I am really excited to have these students here today who are going to tell us what their experience with transfer has been. We have 4 students currently in the room. We're hoping that 2 others join us. They seem to have maybe been lost in Zoom land. During this presentation, I will be asking a series of 11 questions to the panelists, and they will respond. And if you have questions, follow-up questions or comments, if you would put those in the chat box, then Jonathan will collect those at the end, and we will have the students address your additional questions. There's Caitlin. I'm so glad you're here, Caitlin. We thought we had lost you. So I'm going to start by asking each of the students to introduce herself or himself if Christelle comes, and to tell us about the school, the college from which they transferred and the university to which they transferred, and then tell us a little about how long they've been attending, whether they've graduated already, and what their status is, whether they're part-time, full-time, online, living on or near campus. So that will give us the context for the other 10 questions, which are about their transfer experience. So let me first start with Gianna Day. Gianna?
Hi, I am Gianna Day. I am a senior at the University of Dayton. I had transferred my sophomore year from St. Norbert College, which is a small school in Wisconsin. And I live on campus in a house, and I'm a full-time student. So with COVID and everything, classes are kind of blended, but I am on campus and I am a transfer student.
Thank you so much. And you're our only student transferring from out of state, although you're originally from Dayton, right?
No, I'm actually from the Chicago area.
Oh, are you? I had no idea. Okay. You were so familiar with Dayton, I thought you were a native Daytonian. The next person that I want to introduce to you is Huda Nasir. And Huda, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Huda. I am a second year at Ohio State University, majoring in marketing. I transferred just this past year from Columbus State Community College, so I went there for a year and now I'm at Ohio State. I am living at home. I live like 15 minutes from campus, so it's really easy to commute for me. And because of COVID, I have only one in-person class and then the rest are online on Zoom or just like I'm given work and I just have to do it. So yeah.
Great, thank you for joining us. Next on our panel is Brittany Rourke. Brittany, tell us about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Brittany. I just transferred, so this is my first semester here. I go to Bowling Green State University and I'm majoring in nutrition science. I was at Lorain County Community College and I received my associate in applied business and culinary arts. All of my classes are hybrids, so I'm kind of like a mix between online and in person, and I have the opportunity to be on campus 4 times a week.
Okay, that blend is kind of the COVID experience of the day, isn't it? Caitlin Valley, would you tell us about yourself? You're muted, Caitlin.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Caitlin. I was a transfer from Lorain County Community College to Baldwin Wallace University. I just graduated this past spring with my bachelor's degree. I majored in history with a minor in business. And I was attending part-time, though the last semester I did end up attending full-time. And I was living off campus and commuting and working full-time.
Great, thank you for joining us, Caitlin. And the last person is Courtney Zalinka, and Courtney is also from Lorraine, but tell us about yourself, Courtney.
Hi, my name is Courtney. I actually graduated from Cleveland State in May of 2020. I graduated with my Bachelor's of Arts in Urban Studies. I went through the partnership program. I did attend Cleveland State for 2 years as a full-time student, and I took my classes either online or on LC's campus, so I lived from home.
Okay, great. Well, congratulations to you on your graduation. That's great. The first question is to sort of give us what your transfer experience has been like. Was it easy for you to transfer? What made it positive, and what could have been better? And that question goes to Gianna Day.
Thanks. So my transfer experience was overall really good. I knew a lot of people coming in because my high school fed a lot to the University of Dayton. So I knew people, so that helped. But the staff and community at the University of Dayton was also super welcoming and super helpful, which was really great because they made it a more positive experience for me. But I do think the experience could have been a little better here and there, and maybe even a little smoother if they had set up a better orientation for the transfer students, because you are coming in at a different time where not everything is new for everyone like it is when you come in freshman year normally. So I just felt like they could have maybe like offered something where they give like a tour to the transfer students, because for me it's like I hadn't seen the school since when I toured in high school, so it was a little more challenging. But that was probably the only part that could have been improved upon, I felt like, within my transition to the University of Dayton.
Thank you, Gianna. And Huda, tell us about your experience. Was it a good one? What could have been better?
Yeah, so at Columbus State, actually, like once a month, someone from this Ohio State would come and I would be able to ask questions. So like I would probably come up with new questions every month and just kind of get all the clarifications that I needed. My transfer experience was a little different because obviously with COVID, I just transferred. So over the summer, my orientation was all online, which made it a lot more difficult to kind of see campus. Obviously, I'd been on it before, but as a transfer student, it's kind of daunting coming into such a big school. So obviously you can't change COVID, but I just wish I could have been on campus a lot more in the beginning.
Great. And of course, Ohio State has such a reputation for spirit and just students having a good experience relating to one another. I'm sure that was a loss for you. The next question is for Brittany. How early did you start planning courses that would transfer into your program of study? How were you assisted in this? Where did you get information, and were the pathways clear to you? And would you recommend your process to others?
Yeah, so I started taking classes towards my bachelor's, my second year of college. So my high school offered classes through my community college that we could receive college credit for. So my senior year, I was already taking classes that counted towards my associate that I didn't even realize counted so heavily until I got to LC. So I would meet with my guidance counselor, and she helped me look at my degree audit and decided what the best options were for me to get the most out of my time there. So she would make sure all of my classes would 100% transfer and that the class would benefit me, so I wasn't like wasting my time in a class that I didn't necessarily need later on. So we would just plug in a lot of my courses into transferology just to double check and make sure everything would go smoothly. So I guess my advice would be like to people that like make sure you're always working with your counselor because they're always there to help you.
Thank you so much, Brittany. I know that at the community colleges and at the universities, we all worry about college credit plus students losing credits, having credits that won't apply. So it's great that you work so closely with your counselor, and it's also great that your counselor did all that investigation. So that's really a best practice, in my opinion. Thank you for sharing. The next question is, before you transferred, did you have the opportunity to visit and meet with admissions counselors at your transfer university? That question first goes to Huda.
So like I said before, Columbus State offered a lot of advisors and representatives from Ohio State to come. For me, that was really important because I'm at the Fisher College of Business. So it was really important to me that I knew what credits would transfer, which ones wouldn't, what grades I needed for each to get those admitted. So yeah, I would just recommend always emailing advisors and representatives from the school, just making sure you're on track. And like Brittany said, your advisors are there to help you and really utilize them.
I wrote down what you said, Huda, and put a star by it because it is such a strong best practice. Many students don't have that opportunity, and Columbus State and Ohio State do such a good job linking the two institutions. So that's great, and that you didn't lose your credits either. So wonderful. How about you, Caitlin? What has been your experience about visiting and meeting with admissions counselors let's see, you are at Baldwin Wallace.
When I first decided to transfer, I did go in and meet with the admissions counselors. And they made everything really easy. I was able to bring my transcripts that I had from Lorain County Community College. They went over everything with me, told me what classes would transfer in, and were able to put me at ease with coming in with already having my associate's degree and not losing a lot of credits and only needing so many more to actually finish my bachelor's degree. So having that experience to sit down and meet with somebody and actually go over the transcripts and make clear that I wasn't really losing anything by bringing my associate's degree credits over really helped with the process.
I bet it made you feel more self-assured too, and getting started at Baldwin Wallace, knowing that you'd talked to someone. So again,
Absolutely.
great best practice. The next question is, after you transferred, did you receive the credits and class standing that you expected, and what was different, if anything? I think I'll ask Caitlin and Courtney this question. So Caitlin, you first. It sounds like you already indicated that you didn't lose credits. Is that right?
That's correct. The only one that I lost out on was my math credit, but I understood that the math that I took at Lorain County Community College, because at first I was going towards education, I understood that that probably wouldn't transfer anyway. So I just had to work with Baldwin Wallace University about where I would place in for my math and get that situated. But they were able to get me in right away to the math class that I needed, and that was the only one I really lost out on.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. Thank you so much. Courtney, how about you? Did you get the credits that you needed, and did they apply to the program that you entered?
Yeah, so I had no issues at all with transferring my credits from LC to Cleveland State. Everything transferred the way it expected to, and I was even able to take like classes with both colleges at the same time as a transient student, and everything transferred back the way I wanted it to.
That's great. Do you know whether there was an articulation agreement between Lorain and Cleveland State?
Yeah, I believe there is, especially through the partnership program.
Oh, yeah.
They expect those credits from LC to be transferred back to the partnership school that you're going to.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you for sharing. Next question is, what does your current university, or the one that you just graduated from, do to welcome transfer students? Is there anything more that could be done or could have been done to give transfer students a greater sense of belonging? And that question goes to first Huda.
So at my school, I actually, all transfer students are required to take a course, which is just a it's called a business survey course, and it helps transfer students kind of transition, know about the resources on campus, and just kind of get assimilated into the school, which was really, really helpful just to get to know the resources that I can use, and where to find them and how that can help me.
It's great, and with a university the size of Ohio State and going part-time virtual, yes, I would guess that that is really helpful to you because it can be overwhelming. The other person that I would like to ask this question of is Brittany.
Yeah, so Bowling Green, some of the transfer specialists, they do send us like emails and people to contact if you need help. They also send out surveys to just kind of get like our point of view of like what went well and what didn't go well. I do think if universities kind of implemented like opportunities to meet other transfers, it would be really fun and engaging because, you know, it's hard to transfer to a new university. You don't know a lot of people and you're the new guy on campus coming into a major that everybody has already been in a couple years and they know everyone, but you don't really know anyone. So I think that could help with taking some of the overwhelming feelings away.
All righty, thank you, Brittany. Appreciate it. And I know that when you start something new, all of those transitions can be frightening. So it is good to have the way paved for you. I also want to ask that question of Caitlin Valley.
So for my experience being a transfer student, it was a little different. One, because I was commuting. I was also an adult transfer student, so I didn't have the on-campus experience that a traditional student would have. They had a option for a commuting area. They had a little designated spot for commuters on campus. I never had the opportunity to go there because I was taking evening classes because I was working full-time during the day. But there wasn't a lot to involve us as an adult transfer student. There wasn't very much to involve us with because everything that they had going was mostly taking place during the day or in the evening when I was taking classes. So I didn't feel like I had that same experience as a transfer student, but I was very fortunate that once I was in my higher classes for my program, I started getting to know some of the students that were in repeatedly in my classes. I mean, that helped a lot, but it just wasn't the same as a traditional student's experience, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. This is of concern, I think, to community colleges and universities alike in their effort to draw more adult students to make sure that the services are offered at times when commuting students, adult students can take advantage of them, because I think adult students often wonder whether they're in the right place anyway. So having those services is really crucial for them to be adjusted, although you seem to be doing well regardless. So congratulations. Next question goes to Gianna Day. Did you attend an orientation session or class orienting you to the university? Seems like we may have already covered this, but go ahead, Gianna.
Yeah, I had attended the in-person orientation at UD. It was like a day. They had offered an online one and then they had the in-person one. But I just chose to go in person because I thought it would be a little bit more beneficial being new to the campus than online, but I did attend.
Okay, all righty. And could you address that question too, Courtney? About an orientation? You were in a different kind of situation, weren't you?
Yeah, so since I did the partnership program through LC, I have actually never set foot on CSU's campus. So when I was given the opportunity to do the orientation, I just didn't see it necessary since I didn't take any classes on main campus. The only thing that I wish is that they had an orientation for UP students through Cleveland State, because since I was supposed to graduate in May and go on campus and walk everything, even though I didn't get that opportunity, if I would have gone on campus, I really didn't know where anything was. I didn't know like where the bookstore was or where the place that they're holding graduation at. So that was the only thing. I kind of wish there was one that was geared towards the partnership students for an orientation.
Did you do anything virtual with them so that you could become kind of informed about the program, although you already knew quite a bit about it? Would that have helped, a virtual session?
I don't remember because it was a while ago when I started at CSU. I don't remember if I was offered a virtual one. I don't know if I still would have attended it again because I didn't think it was really necessary for me. But it may have been helpful if they had one, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Next question is, does your university provide any type of special location for transfer students to get more information and or connect with other transfer students? Brittany, can you take that question?
Yeah, so I'm not fully sure about all the opportunities they offer at Bowling Green for transfer students, but like I mentioned earlier, we do get a lot of emails like asking like if we need help or how our transfer is going, or if we need help, like don't hesitate to reach out. But it is nice because they're looking to obviously improve for future transfer students and they want to make that process easier.
Okay, great. Let's see. How about you, Caitlin? Does Baldwin Wallace provide any kind of special location? You already indicated that you feel a little bit adrift.
I felt a little adrift with being the transfer, and like I said, they had an area for like commuting. One of the things that they did offer at Baldwin Wallace was they had their own specialized area for transfer students that held the advisors and counselors for scheduling and anything needed for that and graduation purposes. But the item that I ran into with that was that traditional students all were working with advisors in their program areas. And because I was a transfer student, I did not get that option. I was automatically assigned and was told that that was who I would work with directly. I did not get the option to work with somebody in my program as an advisor or a counselor. Luckily, I did have some wonderful instructors and professors in my program. And so I was able to connect with them and make sure that I was on the right track. But I was bouncing back and forth with my minor, and I was working with the transfer center that was with their advisors and counselors. And the problem that I ran into was that there was a particular class that I needed if I had decided to go with that minor, and I took it. But when I was halfway through the class, I found out from the instructor that I actually was not even supposed to be in that class. I didn't meet any of the prerequisites for the class. I didn't have any background in what I was supposed to have. I ended up not passing the class. And when I talked to the instructor about it, he said that I told him, because he said, who put you in the class? And I said, I was working with the transfer center that deals with the transfer students. And he said, see, if you had been working directly with the advisor that should have been assigned to you in our program, you would have known. And so that, I think that miscommunication between areas really can hinder a student, especially a transfer student who's not directly on campus all the time and working directly with other instructors. And so not having that opportunity, and that's where I think as a student I did grow, and I understood then that I needed to make my own connections. And in the major I ended up in, I did make those connections, and my instructors, professors really helped me to stay on track and keep me going. I was always double checking with them, but I think that it was a disservice to me as a transfer student, not being afforded that same opportunity to work and have an advisor in my specialized program area. because I was a transfer student.
I understand, and it's really a good point to make, and it's helpful for the universities and community colleges to hear too, that if they want to help students by having transfer specialists, they need to make sure that those transfer specialists are also very, very connected with the disciplines that they're advising in, so that they become kind of hybrid academic advisors as well as transfer advisors. They have to be fully informed. And I know how difficult that is if you're a generalist covering all the disciplines. So thank you. That's an important thing to share with us. The next question is surprises. So Brittany, have you ever been surprised by anything in the university culture or academic standards, or are they pretty much what you expected them to be?
Not yet. It was kind of, I expected to be in a higher paced environment and always busy. It's taken me a little bit of time to be able to figure out like the best way to get to my classwork, but I'm starting to get into the groove of things and I'm able to be efficient with my time.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad. Congratulations. Because, you know, you have to have that sense of direction. I wonder whether we could have somebody else answer that question as well. How about you, Huda? Have you been surprised by anything in the culture at the university?
Not really. I think I expected it to be more rigorous, and I'm not sure if that's because of the school shift or if it's because everything's online and it's just taking a lot more time. But yeah, I'm not really surprised by anything.
Well, I suppose to find out that it's not that difficult is good news, right? Because I know students often go from high school and their high school teachers are warning them, well, wait till you get to college. So for you, coming from a community college to OSU, perhaps you had that, especially to the Fisher School of Business, you perhaps had that sense too. So I'm glad that it's been, that's a very pleasant surprise. So thank you for sharing that with us. The next question I'd really like Gianna to address, and that because I know a little about what Gianna has done at University of Dayton. What groups or activities does the university provide to support you as a transfer student? How were you informed of these groups and activities? Have you participated? If not, what would draw you to participate? And what have you done as a result of finding out what the groups were at University of Dayton?
So in terms of like groups and stuff, the University of Dayton puts on like an Up the Orgs organization type thing in the green area of the campus, where they just kind of set up all the campus clubs and organizations that they have. So I was able to go to that my sophomore year and see what they did. So I had joined a couple clubs. I didn't really see many things for like necessarily transfer students, but I had joined like a club called like the Optimist Club, where we tutor African refugee students and like help them be able to do their homework and stuff. And I joined like the running club and everything. But it wasn't until last year they put on like a question answer thing for like transfer students during this week. And I realized there was a lot of like issues between like transfer students being able to kind of adjust more to campus and find people that also were transfer students. So I actually created my own club called UD Belong, so that it stands for kind of like UD because it's University of Dayton, but then it's basically You Belong. So it's for like transfer students and kids having a tough time transitioning. So we had like planned to have gotten the group name out by like putting activities together where like we'd go volunteer as a group, take a workout class together as a group, and just different activities to immerse the new students into the campus and into the surrounding area, since it's not just on campus that matters, it's kind of also the community we're living in too. But then unfortunately COVID hit, and so we've just been putting on a couple Zooms and stuff, but we send out emails to like new transfer students and like we post about it, and like I started a group me for it too, so that is something that transfer students can join, and we get it out by like kind of like socializing it, I guess.
And I imagine because it was initiated by you as a student, it was far more attractive to other students, but that is,
Yeah,
so-
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 'cause I think it's also harder coming in as a transfer student, at least for me, because it's like I do enjoy talking to like my advisors, my teachers, and like just people that can help you out along the way. But there's a difference between getting help from them and like being able to talk to them versus like a student reaching out to you just because you can't really hang out. Like you could hang out with the advisor, but they're a little more busy and stuff than an actual student. So it's like I feel like getting reached out by a student is a little more welcoming and shows a better community, I guess.
I agree with you totally. Do you ever have to take questions to the advisors because it's beyond your level of expertise?
Yeah, so I have like I have a club advisor actually who works in the admissions. I picked him just because he was always like nice to talk to, and he ran the transfer or like helped out with like the transfer week last year, and I kind of knew he'd be into like helping me put on a club for other kids that kind of, because I feel like all transfer students have different experiences, but it's like you all have the one thing that you transfer and you didn't always like necessarily have the experience you wanted before in common. So it's just like I just want to create that space, and my advisors are able to help me answer questions that I don't necessarily know. So
Great. Well, be sure to remember students like Caitlin, the non-traditional commuting students, in your plans to reach out, okay?
we actually have some moms. I have like a mom in my group, which is really nice because she like responds in like our group me, and like I think it's awesome.
Well, I think you're awesome, and I think that every university and college that's attending today would love to have you on campus initiating things. I also want to hear from Huda about what kinds of clubs have attracted you and what kinds of things have you participated in, and what would make it better at OSU for transfer students.
Yeah, so at my old school at Columbus State, I was a part of a club called Columbus State Buckeye Bound program, which was really helpful because it just provided me with a community of people that were in the same position as me, or kind of asking the same questions as me, and were wanting to transfer to OSU. And that club provided me with resources. We went on a trip to the school and just walked around and got to talk to advisors and just people on campus, which was really nice. So I'd really just recommend if the institution that you're at now, there's a really popular transfer school, there might be a club, and if there's not, just start one. It's really easy to start an organization, and it will provide you with a community that will help you and help you succeed and make that transition a lot easier.
Very good. Well, Gianna and Huda, you're both exemplars of connecting. So thank you so much for sharing. The final question is about scheduling, which, being a dean, I just dread these scheduling problems, the kinds of things that Caitlin has already told us about. So have you had any difficulty scheduling classes around your other responsibilities at the university? And I think we'll ask Caitlin first, because as a mother, I have a feeling that she's had some difficulties.
So working full-time, I have 3 kids, so I am constantly on the go. I was very fortunate that Bonnemoss does have a lot of evening options. I did have a few friends that were working full-time adult students that had gone through different programs at Bonnemoss and highly recommended it. And that was one of the reasons I looked there in the first place, was because it seemed that they had a lot of options for adult transfer students. And though I was able to complete my degree and take the classes I needed to in the evening for the most part, I did run into some issues with scheduling when it came to some of the classes. For one was for my minor in business, I had to take an economics class. The economics class was for my last term, was not offered online and did not have an evening option. So it was only offered during the day 3 times a week. So trying to get to Berea for my classes from my home and get all the way out there and then have to work around my work schedule also was a little crazy. So it was hectic. And of course, then COVID hit right in the middle of that. So it ended up turning into a online class at the end. But for the first few months of the class, it was hard. And my advisor at the time was really great. And she tried so hard to see if there was going to be an option for that class to be online or in the evening. And she explained to the division, you know, she's like, I have an adult student. She works full time. She needs that option of online or in the evening. And the division just said that they couldn't accommodate. And so, you know, and luckily I have a wonderful job that is always great to say, you know, I told them what was going on and they wanted to make sure I finished my degree, and and they worked with me. But not everybody's that fortunate. And the other thing that I realized that my degree is a general history degree, but Baldwin Wallace does offer more specialized areas. One of the areas is public history major, and I was very interested in that. However, those classes are only offered during the day. So I could not attend those classes and specialize in that program. So as wonderful as I loved my experience at Baldwin Wallace University for the most part, but I think that they do need to realize that they're going to end up with more students like me eventually that want that more specialized area of education. And, you know, it would have been nice to have that. So looking at master's programs, I'm going to be looking at more specialized areas, but it would have been nice to have had that opportunity to take those classes previously at the undergraduate level. And I just wasn't afforded that opportunity because they didn't have the option of taking it any other time that would have worked around my schedule.
Thank you. You expressed the situation, the problem, and what the effects were so clearly. And I think that all of us, all of the community colleges and universities want students like you. So it is important for us to think of alternatives in scheduling. Courtney, I think your experience was different. Would you tell us about your experience with schedules?
Yeah, so since I, again, went through the partnership program through LC in Cleveland State, I really had no issues at all scheduling classes. I had the option to take my classes online, which I prefer. But then ones that weren't offered online, they were typically offered at night on LC's campus. They did have like daytime options, but it was on main campus and I just didn't see the need to do that. So typically like my night classes were at 6, so I was able to work during the day. And then I would go to my class. It was anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. And it really, each class only met once a week. So it was pretty convenient for me, I think.
Super. And so that partnership between LC and Cleveland State made it possible for the students at LC to have classes that were online or at convenient times for you. So that's really great. And that's what we're after. I wonder if you would also tell us what your experience has been, Huda, with scheduling of classes.
Yeah, so I did not have any trouble either. All of my credits transferred. So it was a really easy thing for me. So yeah.
Great. And Brittany, what's your experience been?
When I kind of scheduled late compared to like probably all the other students at Bowling Green, because this spring I committed to the college in April. And it was literally a week after was when registration was for the fall. And with just starting to be there and trying to figure everything out, I had to talk to a lot of people before I could actually finalize my schedule. So it started to get a little overwhelming because I got nervous that I wouldn't have time for certain classes that I really needed to take this fall, or I wouldn't get the seat that I needed. So it was a lot of back and forth with a lot of people throughout the spring, but I was able to get it figured out. And then it kind of gave me like a different perspective for this fall because we register next week. So I've been trying to be ahead more. And then I do have like some friends out here that have definitely been able to help me and give me advice on how to schedule and what to look for. So.
Well, spring was spring, COVID spring, so it made all of us nervous, and obviously it put a little more stress on you too. Gianna, did you have any bad experiences or positive experience with scheduling at UD?
Transferring in, my advisor that kind of helped me like over the summer, make sure I was all set up for the fall. He kind of just placed me into the classes I needed, I guess. The only problem I had was with like Spanish, I guess, because I had taken it at St. Norbert's, but then they were like, oh, we don't know if it's the same. You have to take it here. And I was like, how different can a 101 be? I was like, it's the basics. But I ended up taking the placement test. And then it ended up working out fine. But that was the only problem I really would say I had, besides my old college did 4 credit classes. So I only got 3 out of, so it's like if I took like 16 there, I only got like 12 of them or something, just because they only took 3 out of the 4 credits for each class. But besides that, it was fine. I was able to still be able to graduate on time. I just had to like take more classes certain times, but
yeah, that kind of thing can be a barrier to students. I know I have organized language programs, and figuring out whether it's going to be a 3 credit or a 4 credit and where students are transferring to is problematic. Well, that is the end of our questions, and Jonathan, I hope, has organized some questions from the audience. If you in the audience have other questions, we'd be happy to have them now if you want to type them into the chat box.
Yeah, thanks, Deb. A couple of them were asked directly to our participants, so I'll kind of bypass you for those first couple, and then currently we have a third that I'll hand off to you. So again, yeah, if you guys have more questions, just let us know. We have some time to ask our great panelists these questions. So the first question is from Robin. It's for Brittany. She is asking, in what avenue would you envision schools offer these peer connections? Due to the limited time for many transfers, she is curious to know what some suggestions would be on your end.
Okay. So I actually am part of an organization here. It doesn't have to do with transfers, but it's like for my degree. So it's like a student nutrition program. And lately, like obviously with COVID, we don't really have like in-person meetings where they usually would. And we do Zoom calls, and like they'll just tell us like their updates or like any socials they plan on doing. And like it's kind of nice that I have like something to do outside of, you know, like hanging out just with my roommates. I get to meet people in my major. So I guess like thinking about what a counselor could do, it's like, oh, it's like all kids that are transfers. We do like Kahoots, and they're really fun. And then like they'll break us out in different breakout rooms, and then like we'll just talk about our days or like how our major is going. So I mean, we're all in the same major because it's like nutrition majors or dietetics, versus I feel like when all the transfers would get together, we could talk about like, oh, like, yeah, I went to this school, I went to that school, like, how's it going? So it's just kind of nice to just bounce off of other people that, you know, like they know what you're going through, versus like my roommates are like, oh, like, I understand how to do this. And you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So it would just be nice, like, to, I guess, like, hear other people's stories and experiences.
Great, thank you. This next question is also from Robin, but it's for Caitlin. She is asking, how could we reach out to better connect with working adults who transferred in like you? What would have made you feel more comfortable with your transition?
You know, I've thought about that a lot, and I wish I had a really good answer, but I think it's difficult to say because not all, adult transfer students have the same situation. Some are single, they have kids but don't have a support system in place. So, and others have the support system, but still just between work and scheduling for other things, they're just not able to participate in items and in events. And I think that being conscious of the fact that maybe things could take place at different times or different days, maybe not all in the middle of the week, varying the times and options of events, that might help. I think, like, for me, a lot of the items would take place in the items that I wanted to attend that took place in the evening usually ran right into the classes that I was taking in the evening. So there wasn't much that I could do about that. I think it's just being mindful of trying not to schedule everything on the same day or time all the time, and varying it so other people could attend.
She asked a follow-up question right during the middle of that. She's asking, would a weekend event help?
In my case, that would have been nice. I don't work the weekends typically. Like I said, I do have 3 kids, but usually my husband's home. He can run kids around on the weekend, so I would have been able to attend something on a weekend. In that case, it just depends. I think on the student and their availability and the options, but just even having that option of maybe doing something during the week one time for an area, and then having the weekend option another time so somebody else like me could attend. That would be great.
Thank you so much. All right, Deb, these are going to come back at you. So the first question, we have a bunch in the chat now, but the first question is to deal with like academic concerns for the panelists. So did you feel that what you did at your first college prepared you for your second college academically?
Oh, such a great question, because I know that often universities, faculty, and staff both feel some concern about whether students are prepared. And of course, at a community college, we worry about whether the high schools are preparing students adequately. Let us start with you, Gianna. What did you think? Did you feel like you were ready for UD?
I do feel like I was ready for UD because I don't know, my high school, I feel like prepared me for my first college. And then even like, 'cause I went to a college prep school. So the classes were a little bit more, I feel like, not difficult in high school, but like a little just like, it was definitely a step up from grade school when I transferred to high school. And then going from high school to college, the only thing that was really tough, I feel like, was being away from home for me. That was hard. But besides that, like the class load and the classwork, I felt pretty prepared for from St. Norbert to Dayton.
Okay, great. It sounded, when you described your Spanish experience, that you would have been willing to fight and say, yes, I am prepared. It's going to be a chance. Huda, how about you? Did you feel that you were adequately prepared for the jump from Columbus State to Ohio State?
Yeah, I felt pretty prepared. I was nervous at first because it is such a big jump. But a friend of mine told me just to reach out to my professors and just ask what the course will entail, how the grading system will work, which really helped. And I think that the professors really appreciated that as well. So yeah, I think I was pretty much prepared.
That's just such great advice for students, to know that they can make friends with their faculty, or at least faculty are on their side. So ask questions. So great advice. Brittany, how about you? When you transferred to Bowling Green, did you feel ready for the rigor there?
I think I do, but I think part of me is more of I was taking classes pretty early in my degree for my bachelor's. So I think I was already taking those challenging classes that I just expected it to be like this at BG. I think it definitely, like, some parts were overwhelming because like some of the things that I took like in high school, and then like I kind of didn't take in depth my first year, and then my second year kind of came in depth again, if that makes sense. So it's like I felt like it wasn't a straight continuation. So some things like I kind of drifted away from, and other things I remembered. But once I was like able to like remember what I had learned in the past, it was pretty easy.
That's great, Brittany. Thank you. Courtney, it sounds like your program was sort of joined at the hip, the community college, Lorraine and Cleveland State. Were you feeling ready, and did you find that you were ready for Cleveland State?
Yeah, so I really didn't have too much trouble with like going over again because they're jointed. The only thing I really struggled with, which math is not my strong suit. And when I first started taking classes in college at LC, I took my math classes right away, like right off the bat. My first 2 or 3 semesters, I got all of those done. And my first semester at CSU, I had a math class as well. And it had been so long since I took math because it was such a gap in between. So really, other than that, that was my only concern, but that's also because I'm not strong at math. So I kind of had to remember everything I learned at the beginning of my college experience. Other than that, it was very easy and simple for me.
That's interesting. When we design pathways, we may not think about that gap between a math course at the beginning, first semester of community college, and then one that's at the 5th semester at the university that you transfer to. So good point. Caitlin, how about you? When you transferred from Lorraine to Baldwin Wallace, did you feel ready for the classes there and the rigor?
Yes and no. I think some of the classes I felt I had a really good basis on, but I kind of ran the same thing that Courtney did, that she took her, taking her math classes like first in the part of the community college level, and then being thrown into another math class later on. For me, it was actually with the Englishes. I never had a problem with English. I knocked out my classes that I needed right away. But my span of college has gone on for over 8 years at this point. And so referring back and remembering like how to just the format of writing and everything like that, it was just for my history major, I had a lot of papers. I had a lot of writing to do. And so it was just a lot of trying to remember and refresh. It wasn't there. It just had been so long in my case that, I didn't feel like I had that background as well down as I was hoping.
With those foundational skills, you almost have to have ongoing practice throughout your academic career and throughout your career afterwards too. So I understand how a gap can affect you. I've had gaps in my own career. What other questions do we have, Jonathan?
Actually, we have quite a few, and we're running lower on time. So maybe just like a person or two per question would probably be all that we have time for. So the next question would be, what would have been the best time for us to reach you prior to your transfer? Would it be the first semester or a different time?
Oh, that's a good question. So let's ask Huda that question. Huda, you had ongoing every semester, right? But tell us anyway. When would be the best time, you think, for admissions counselors to be talking with you about transfer?
I'd say first semester. The earlier the better, just because with like credits and the classes you're taking, you can really orient it to whatever school you want to transfer to, because that's really important, and you don't want to be taking classes that aren't going to transfer. So yeah, the earlier the better.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. What other questions, Jonathan?
Yeah, this one's from Sarah Unger. What are our students looking for in an orientation experience? Would you rather it be in person or online?
Okay, let's see. I think we'll ask Brittany that question. Would you prefer a face-to-face or online? And what would you like to be have the content?
I definitely would prefer in person because I didn't go to like an actual orientation, but I did come and tour the college right before I like transferred and was looking at other schools. So it was really nice because I filed that I was a transfer student and I wasn't in the main group. I only had one person to show me around campus. So it was nice. Like obviously we skipped dorms because I didn't have to be in a dorm. But then she actually showed me the specific buildings that I would be in for a majority of my classes, which was really nice. And then she was able to talk to me like one-on-one about where things were. And I think that's one of the most intimidating things about being a transfer student. Like you go to the library and you don't know where the bathroom is, or you go to one class and then you're like, well, I don't understand how to get to the next class, or I don't remember where I parked my car. So it's like, I think that in-person orientation would help connect you to the campus and the other people around you. Regarding like information, I would say like, you know, like definitely it's nice to show us around. And then I mean like for sure talk to us about like where should we go if XYZ happens, or maybe like talk about the criteria maybe that like you'll be learning in classes, or maybe things that like we should expect like when we're on campus or when we're off.
So meetings with faculty would be also helpful to get people who are going to be teaching your discipline to tell you about what those criteria are and what to expect, right?
Yeah, I actually met with one of the heads of my program as well. So she actually showed me around like the lab and it was really cool. And then she told me about what my classes were and what I'd be learning in the next 2 years. So it was a really exciting process and I was able to see around.
Thank you so much. That's great advice for us at the community college as well as for us at the universities. What else, Jonathan?
There was a follow-up question to that. So Brittany, would you prefer, I know you prefer the in-person, would you like it to be like a half-day program or a full-day program?
I feel like if it was a full day program, like I personally wouldn't mind it, but I feel like with a lot of my colleagues, they'd probably get bored. So maybe like if you did it in like split times, or maybe you said this orientation is more showing you around and then like it's a certain time, and then say if people think that they know campus, they could skip it and then like join the next portion of the meeting. And that would probably keep people more involved of things that they actually want to see or they actually need to know about.
I like that your experience included that one-on-one, because I think that then you're sure to have your questions addressed, whereas in a group, you may not feel comfortable asking the whole group to listen to your question, which is very personal. What else, Jonathan? Are we done?
We have a few more. So this one would probably be good for, I'm going to plug Courtney since she has been an online student or was an online student. So Allie from BG is asking, how can we as the colleges help prevent this Zoom/virtual burnout when we are trying to connect with transfer students?
So as far as like the Zoom goes, because I graduated in May, I had to do like the second half of my spring classes virtually. And that was my first time having to do like a lecture at a certain time that day. So I didn't really mind that. I did struggle with like wanting to sign on at the time of the class and paying attention the entire time, because it was more just like talking, slideshows. So I didn't really find that part very helpful, at least for me. I'm more of a, because I like to do online classes, I like that I can do it at my own pace, that I can pick what time of the day I'm able to do it, whether it's on my day off or after work or during work if I have time. So as far as like the burnout goes for me, because I prefer online classes, I didn't really have a burnout at all with that.
Thanks. So the next question goes to, well, it's from William, and he wants to know, Deb, about the transfer search process. Like, did our students know from the beginning what institution they wanted to transfer to? And if not, you know, what are the kinds of things that influenced that decision and helped make that final decision?
Okay, so why don't we start that question with Caitlin, because Caitlin didn't belong to a group that was already had a program that was joined. So Caitlin, how many candidates did you have for your transfer university, and how did you arrive at Baldwin Wallace?
So I had, like I had said earlier, I did have some friends that had experienced Baldwin-Wallace as an adult student, and I had previously been in the education route, and so I did do a semester at Ashland, and I didn't really feel like I connected with it, and so I wanted to do something else. And Baldwin-Wallace University, again, I did go there initially to look at their education program, but even on the tour, all their education classes were done during the day, so I knew right away that there was no option for me to continue down that path. But what they did offer for online evening classes for me were really what won me over. And the fact that they had the associate to bachelor's pathway for me, so that I really didn't lose any of my credits and was able just to kind of transition right into where I needed to go.
That makes sense. So for you, access was of prime importance. Jonathan?
Yeah, so we have one last question. So after that, feel free to close it out and let everyone know about what's going on Friday. But this one, again, is from Robin, who's had a lot of great questions today. She is asking if someone can discuss the differences and challenges that you guys experience with the difference in the financial changes. So like your bill, tuition, scholarships. So anything that you guys had that really helped, like with aid packages, or like if you went part-time instead of full-time, we would like to know about that.
So let's ask Gianna. Have you had any financial aid issues?
Fortunately, I have not had any financial aid issues. I think it was pretty similar pricing too, from my first college to the second one, so it wasn't like much of a difference, but I've been pretty blessed in the college financial.
How about you, Huda? I think there's probably a difference in tuition between Columbus State and the Ohio State University. Were you able to navigate those differences?
Yeah, so it was definitely a big jump going from Columbus State to Ohio State. Luckily, I did get a good portion of my tuition paid for through financial aid. However, the day before fees were due, I was told that I owed $1,000, which was not great. So I was like, I have a day to pay $1,000. But the one piece of advice that I tell everyone is always call your financial aid office at your institution and just ask if you're eligible for more grants, because that's what I did. And I was able to get that $1,000 paid for because I was eligible for a grant that I didn't know existed. So yeah, always call your financial aid office just in case.
That's great, Huda. So your advice, talk to faculty, talk to financial aid, talk, get your questions answered. So that's great advice. Well, I think that's the end of our program today. I want to thank our students so much. They have been delightful, and it's really been good to hear about their experience. It gave me a lot of ideas, and I hope it did the rest of the people who are attending today, ideas of how to make it easier for them, but also just what great students our transfer students are in Ohio. And so appreciate that. I appreciate them. We are going to end transfer week, which is Monday through Friday of this week, the work week, on Friday by having a panelist of transfer experts talk about the transitions and how to make these transitions from community college to university smoother, better. And I hope that those, I know the panelists are attending, so we've had great ideas from the students, so let's build on those. Everybody have a great week. And again, thank you so much, students. You are strong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Have a good day.